Hi there and welcome to Gray's Gardening. This is my allotment channel. So it's an absolute glorious day, first week of May. I thought I'd get down to the plot to show you exactly what's going on, what's already started growing, what my plans are, what I've changed. But more importantly, I'm going to focus on the more unusual plants. Those kind of things you might not think will grow well in the UK, or you may not have even heard of at all. So I'm going to take you around, show you everything. And if you do like this kind of thing, don't forget to subscribe, leave me a comment, hit that thumbs up, share it with a friend. So let's get cracking, I'll show you around. Right, when we first enter the plot, we're met by the Montana clematis. You can't smell this, but if you have ever smelt one of these before, it is like the best, nicest perfume you could ever smell. So that's the first thing you see. We created a wall out of Goldcrest conifers, just to then direct you through the archway. But just behind me, and what I want to focus on and show you first, is the kiwis. The kiwi vine. This is Kiwi Jenny, a self-fertile variety, really hardy, grows well in the UK, and it has actually budded for the first time since I planted this in. You can see it's a vine. It's a really fast-growing vine, and I'm going to train that up maybe above on that beam, and we're going to go across this way as well. But for this year, I'm hoping that could well be about 20 kiwis. They are the normal brown fairy skinned variety, but hopefully each one of those will become its own kiwi. So as we go through the archway, what a lovely blue sky. First of all, I've got a couple of banana trees on the floor. They were pups taken out from the big ones last year, planted them in, and they've taken quite nicely. But just next to it, we've got my fig tree. This is the brown turkey fig, and I have never had so many figs. I don't know whether it was the winter we had, or the nice spring, nice start to summer. But you can see they are already swelling up nicely, despite how dry it's been. In fact, this one, look at the size of that next to my hand. There is figs all over this. The birds do generally eat some of them, so I need to cover it once they start ripening, which will be in a few months' time. But I've never seen so many figs. Here's my new solar water fountain in my pond. Put that in last week. As you can see, there's the solar panel. And that then, once the sun's on it, powers the fountain itself. Just gives that nice tranquil sound, and because it's got a filter in it, it's actually really quite clear now at the bottom of the pond. Attracts extra wildlife, and it also helps to keep mosquitoes at bay, because they like still stagnant water rather than moving water. I think you can agree that sound is rather relaxing. Just behind the pond, I'm going to come up here. This is my apricot tree, which I do get apricots on. I'm just going to show you a few examples of where they're growing nicely. This is probably one of the biggest ones we've got at the moment. You can just see, hopefully next to my hand, that's a nice apricot. Quite tricky to spot just because they're the same colour as the leaves at the moment. But there's another one just in there, and then there's a couple up there also. I've counted about 12 so far, but I'm sure there'll be more. Once they do ripen, they go a nice orange colour, so you can really spot them then. But also the birds do also. As mentioned, here are the bigger bananas. This is what they start like, and then they send out the pups from the bottom, little baby ones, and then you can dig them out and move them on. So here is one that was moved on, and then there's 3 or 4 in here, which the leaves are really starting to grow right now. That whole leaf's grown in the last 5 days. So they'll be nice once they fully fill out right in front of my greenhouse, and they become almost towering up either side to direct you straight in. Now, I am a bit slow in my greenhouse this year. I've started weeding it. As you can see, I've made a start on it, but there's still plenty to go. But just above, hopefully you can see this. This is my grapevine, and the grapes have well and truly started. And then you can see in here the new bunches of grapes just beginning. In fact, that's a better one. Each one of those will become its own bunch of grapes. I did produce a video over the winter just showing you how to prune your grapevine. You basically take it back to each bud, chop that right back. This is the new growth, and then you get the grapes on each of the new stems that it takes out. And then I'll need to trim this soon, so I'll be taking off anything after the last bunch of grapes, just so that it doesn't get too dark in here, and to put more energy and focus into the grapes themselves. I normally get between 60 and 70 bunches off this grapevine. This is a green seedless Lakemont variety. Really, really tasty. Quite small grapes, but they are seedless. And I'll be trying to make some juice out of them this year also. In the corner, we've got the pomegranate. You may not think you can grow pomegranates in the UK. I have had them in the past, and these are the buds. Those buds will open up, become a nice pink flower, pinky, orangey, peachy flower. If they get pollinated, they will then become a pomegranate. Now, I've only ever had one pomegranate bush, and it has produced pomegranate, so I don't think you need two unless there's one nearby, but I doubt it. Coming out of the greenhouse, here's my gunnera. Still early days, and it's very, very root bound at the moment, so I'll be separating that, chopping it in half and creating new gunnera plants. Here's my new purchase for this year. This is the polytunnel. This is 6 meters long by 3 meters wide, 2 meters high. And on this side, we've predominantly got strawberries, and they get watered every day by a solar automatic watering system, meaning I don't have to water them as long as they've got one of these little drippers inside. And they're not doing too bad. Got quite a lot of flowers on them, and I think the first ones are starting. I normally leave my strawberries outside, but as you can imagine, you've probably experienced yourself, the birds will always eat them. Here's a new one. This is a Gooseberry, so I need to plant that in the ground really. It's a hybrid cross of a blackcurrant and a gooseberry. So be interesting, brand new this year. Not sure if I'm going to get any fruits off it yet, but I'll be planting that in the ground shortly. And this one is a boysenberry, which is actually a cross between a blackberry, loganberry, and dewberry, and a raspberry even. So there's 4 different fruits in there. They look quite nice, and we do have a bud. So that is the boysenberry. Just spinning round, this is the blueberries, predominantly blueberries. We've got the first one starting. As you can see, they're going to start swelling up soon. I've got a fair few different types of blueberries over here. That's the big one. And this is a new one. This one's called Blue Crop. Next to it was a couple of grapevine cuttings I took last year. Literally cut a few stems off, a few vines off, stuck them in the ground in a pot of soil even, and they are now its own grapevine. A new grapevine for free. There we've got another blueberry. That was only a baby, that one, so I'm not expecting much this year, maybe next year. We're coming along. Here's another slightly unusual plant you may not have heard of. This is the Japanese wineberry. Resembles a raspberry, but it's much smaller and a darker, brighter red colour. Very tasty. I normally get a fair few off this. I think it needs probably potting on now into a bigger pot, but there's a little baby one starting off, and we will get a few Japanese wineberries. Here is my honeyberry, and I bring this inside so the birds don't get them, but the honeyberries have now started. They're like a blueberry. They taste a bit like a blueberry but much sweeter, and I've got a fair few on them. I'm hoping I have been leaving the door open. I'm hoping the birds haven't come in, but just try one of these. So like a blueberry. Or quite a bit sweeter. Not sure if they're quite ripe yet, but these are the honeyberry. In fact, this one next to it has got even more on it. Not really a prolific cropper. I think I need to really chop these back next year. I'll chop them back hard and see if that makes much difference. Coming out of the polytunnel, the pears have never been so prolific. Every single branch has got pears on here. Last year it was similar, and then they all dropped because of the lack of water, I think. Maybe it was the lack of sunlight last year. So I'm just hoping we get plenty of pears this year. But yeah, looking forward to a good crop of pears. Here's my cherries. And I never get any cherries because the birds eat them all. But again, this year, it's looking like we've got plenty. Got some even just starting there. So fingers crossed, the birds can have some as long as they leave some for me. Like that one is looking quite large. See if we get some. Here is a peach tree. So very similar family to the apricot. I only put it in 2 years ago, but we already have peaches. They're probably about the size of a marble right now, but we've got 3 or 4 of them. Didn't expect that. Oh, they're quite soft. Soft and fairy. Not sure how big they'll go because the plant itself, the tree itself is not very large. But it's all good. Here's a pawpaw. Doesn't really do much, just has nice foliage. Maybe it'll grow the pawpaw fruit one day. But it is very hardy, lives outside, comes back every year. And right now it's just in a pot. Needs a bit of a weed. Now this one's a funny tree. This is the medlar tree. This one actually produces fruit, obviously called the medlar fruit, but also known as the dog's bottom, just because of how what they resemble and how they grow. Now that's covered in flowers, and again I hope to get plenty of medlar this year. These were a favourite from Queen Victoria back in the day apparently, so I'll give them a go and see what they're like. Interestingly, just next to my rhubarb, this was a big old barrel of soil, which I thought was nothing. I thought it was just empty plain soil, but seems to have grown some potatoes. I presume they're potatoes. They look very much like potatoes. Leave me a comment if you agree they are potatoes. I'm going to leave them, just let them do their thing, and I'll dig them up at the end and see how many potatoes we get. At the back over there, that's raspberries, loganberries and tayberries. Needs a good old weed. Haven't got to that just yet. Coming down the side of the greenhouse, I've got my soft fruit bed. This is my no-dig bed. I've never done a no-dig bed before, but this is generally just full of soft fruit. In the middle we have red gooseberries. I've got raspberries. There's strawberries in there. We've got the green gooseberry. More raspberries. There's black currants. And then these are actually red currants. Bumper crop by the looks of it. Look at all them in there. They're going to be great. They're really, really nice and sweet. They go great on your cereal in the morning or popped into a smoothie. But there's black currants, red currants, there's even white currants and every type of raspberry you can imagine, from the early summer crops to the autumn raspberry. Now once all these fruits start to form and ripen, I do then cover them. But I've got a feeling this year, judging by how big some of these have gone, I'm going to have to create a bigger frame. But if I don't cover them, the birds will eat them. And I've just actually spotted Some gooseberries already starting. They're quite early. In fact, there's a few. Be nice. As I say, it's my no dig bed, so I'll leave that one. You may not have heard of this one either. This is the Chilean Guava. Now the leaves all went a funny colour this year, and I didn't spot many flowers on it. So I'm not sure how many fruits we're going to get, but normally this is covered in Chilean guavas. They're only small, they're quite small, a bit smaller than a grape. However, I'm looking in there, I can see some of them starting already. So maybe we will, fingers crossed, we get some Chilean guavas. There's just some more honeyberries, bought a few more. They were 3 for $5. You can't go wrong, can you? So planted them in. They'll be producing honeyberries next year. And here is my golden delicious apple tree. Again, like the pears, this is the most baby apples I've ever seen growing on this tree. Everywhere I look, I can see them. Is this a good sign? Have we had a good winter or a good spring? We've had something to make all this fruit start. Maybe it's the year of the apples and pears. And then there's my new raised bed that I built over the winter. It's a glass raised bed, something a bit different. And this coming weekend, all my crops are coming outside. So that's going to be full of courgettes. And I think I'm going to put some sunflowers in, see how big they can grow. And then there's 2 more raised beds over here. As you can see, in nice full sun, they've been covered over with the cardboard. Need to give that a bit of a tidy, but I'm going to lift all that, place some new fresh compost in there, and that one, and then get planting. I've got pumpkins, sweet corn, courgettes, melons, tomatoes, onions. I'll find a home for all of those. And then just finally, you've probably spotted it, this is all going. That is currently my woodshed, but it's become a bit of a dumping ground. So I'm going to flatten all of that. And then this is my old conservatory that I've saved, which will become some kind of a glass house in this area. And it does get the sun later on. So I'm going to put a nice big patio in there, and I think it will all look fantastic, tucked away at the back of the greenhouse. Okay, hope you've enjoyed that little tour. If you've got any questions about anything I'm growing, or any questions in general, just pop them into the comments box below. If you haven't yet subscribed and you want to watch me do the big plant out next weekend or this coming weekend, then please do subscribe also. Hit me a like. See you next time. Take care, everyone. Bye now.